Hey there everyone! Jinhsi's banner is almost here, and that means the burning question on your mind must be, should I pull for Jinhsi or not? Well, in this video I'm going to go through some pros and cons of Jinhsi, so you can decide whether you want to pull for her or not. Let's get into it. First of all, I'm gonna just go ahead and say it, the most important thing about a DPS character is going to be their damage output, and Jinhsi's is incredible. After the buff she received recently, Jinhsi might just be the best DPS in the entire game. Like, I'm serious, her skill is doing like 200,000 damage with her signature. Like, this is not okay. And when you look at the competition, you know, the competition was never gonna be that bright. Because there is going to be Kalcharo, Encore, and Jian. Out of these, I consider Jian to be the best character, obviously, because he has incredible AoE potential, and the fact that he groups enemies together himself is really powerful. He's also just kind of brain dead, which is in his favor. Now, Jinhsi just does so much more damage than him. Like, it's honestly quite incredible that this is allowed. But, you know, I guess that's just kind of what happens when you're the first Archon-S character in Wuthering Waves. And the thing is, even with incredibly unfair assumptions, Jinhsi is just going to do a lot more damage than Jian is. A lot of her damage is focused into her enhanced skill, obviously, which has a stack counter that you need to make sure is being stacked. But after the changes to it, which make it so coordinated attacks now have a separate cooldown and also give double the amount of stacks, this means that stack generation has never been easier for Jinhsi, and that means that the amount of damage she got is just incredible, especially since the multiplier was increased. Now, what does she really have over Jian outside just doing more damage? Well, I wouldn't really say that she has much, because she is very similar to Jian, as they are both incredibly brain dead to pilot. Now, I will say that Jian is easier to pilot since you literally just use his ult and skill, and you spam the basic attack button until your skills back up again. It really doesn't get much easier than that. But, you know what, Jinhsi isn't too far, because she just does her intro skill, does her regular skill, 4 basic attacks, skill again, and then she's gone. Obviously, you need to remember how to play her, but if you can't even remember that simple combo, then honestly, I don't know what to do with you. But Jinhsi is very easy to use, especially since she is going to be in the air a vast majority of the time, and because her attacks are ranged in a sense, it means that she is able to separate herself from melee enemies while still being able to damage them quite easily. It's like she's just a ranged character in disguise despite wielding a broad blade. But what about Jian's other major benefit? His incredible AoE. Now, I think that Jinhsi's AoE is not as good as Kalcharo's, as she is unable to group enemies together with her attacks, and she also just has less range on the basic attacks. However, what she does have big range on is her skill and ultimate. And I'm just gonna say it right now, the skill is the grand majority of Jinhsi's damage, so the fact that that has Jian levels of AoE is good enough for me. Because that skill alone, when you use it twice, is just gonna do Jian's damage per rotation. And since Jinhsi's rotation has her going on field twice, yeah, let's just say she's doing Jian levels of AoE damage, despite not having as much AoE as him. Now, if you're enjoying the video, be sure to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. But it isn't all sunshine and rainbows with Jinhsi, because let's get into some bad things about her. For example, an issue that Kalcharo has, being that dodging is a damage loss. Now, what do I mean with dodging as a damage loss? Obviously, dodging means you're not attacking, which is a bad thing. But this is different, because, for example, what Kalcharo has is when you do a dodge and you want a dodge counter, you're obviously going to do an attack. But this counterattack does not contribute to his Death Messenger gauge, which means that ultimately you're just kind of wasting time by dodging, which is incredibly unfortunate. Now, how does Jinhsi do this? Well, because Jinhsi needs to do specifically her 4th basic attack in order to use her enhanced skill, that means you need to be able to complete the entire normal attack string. And while this is not very hard, if you're fighting a really aggressive enemy that will just not give you the time of day, that is going to be something that Jinhsi is going to struggle with a lot, compared to a character like Ling Yang, who is also going to spend all of his damage window in the air. Now, Ling Yang is able to sort of move away from enemy attacks with his enhanced skill, but Jinhsi doesn't have this. So the only thing that's really saving her is the fact that her damage window is so short. So if you time it correctly, she doesn't have to worry about enemy attacks. So while Jinhsi is easy to use, she can be quite inconvenient when fighting the wrong enemy. Now let's talk about another inconvenience, which is the fact that Jinhsi's damage is incredibly backloaded. Now, what does backloaded mean? Backloaded is the opposite of front-loaded, which means that the majority of this character's damage comes near the end of her rotation. Think about characters like Yuwa from Genshin Impact, where her ult only explodes after like 7 seconds of stacking it up. This means that Jinhsi can clear slower than other characters if those other characters are able to do more damage in a short amount of time than Jinhsi. Now, at our current level, this really isn't a big deal because we just don't do enough damage yet where we clear super fast, but in the future I might see this becoming an issue for Jinhsi, because in the game Genshin Impact, being backloaded is kind of just a sin against the meta, to be honest. Now, let's talk about Jinhsi's team options. And I'm going to be honest, the synergy with her team options is not amazing, because her current best team is going to contain Yinlin and Verena. Both of these are coordinated attackers, which you would say is really good synergy. But then you look at the rest. Verena has a stupidly short field time, which in normal scenarios would be a good thing. But the problem with that in a Jinhsi team is you need your rotation to be at least 25 seconds, which means 12.5 seconds per half rotation. And Verena's field time, you know, like I said, it's really goddamn short, so you need to have a support in there that takes plenty of field time. Now, Yinlin is very good at this, but not everyone's going to have Yinlin because we're so early in the game and she is the literal current banner before Jinhsi. And as for Yinlin's flaws with Jinhsi, the big thing I would want to say is that Yinlin's outro skill really isn't that good for Jinhsi. Resonance Liberation damage is really not a big thing, because even with the Resonance Liberation damage bonus, her ult is only doing 20% of her damage output, and that's not really that big compared to the almost half damage from just the 2 enhanced skills. So the ultimate Resonance Liberation damage bonus isn't that impressive. But obviously she's the best thing we have because of her frequent coordinated attacks. But I will say that this means that Jinhsi has opportunities to grow in the future. Are you guys gonna pull for Jinhsi? I know for damn sure I am. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and if you didn't, don't I guess. That'll be all from me. Peace.